Thank you for being here and taking the time to watch this video. If you are interested in deep biblical stories, hidden spiritual truths, and mysteries that are rarely explained clearly, stay with me until the end, because today we are going to uncover who the Pharisees really were and why Jesus confronted them more strongly than any other group. To the people of their time, the Pharisees appeared disciplined, holy, and deeply committed to God's law. They were respected, admired, and often seen as spiritual examples. Yet, behind this carefully maintained image existed a form of faith that slowly drifted away from the very heart of God. To truly understand the Pharisees in the time of Jesus, we must go back several centuries, because this group did not appear suddenly or without reason. Their identity was shaped by national trauma, foreign oppression, and a deep fear of repeating the mistakes of the past. In 586 BC, Jerusalem was destroyed by Babylon. The temple was burned, the monarchy collapsed, and the people of Israel were taken into exile. This catastrophe was understood as divine judgment for disobedience to God's law, and that belief left a permanent mark on Israel's spiritual memory. When the people finally returned and rebuilt the temple, they made a firm promise to themselves: never again would they abandon the law. Over time, the Torah became the absolute center of religious life. Faith was no longer limited to temple rituals, but was meant to govern every detail of daily living. Later, under Greek rule, a new threat emerged as Greek culture, language, and values began to influence Jewish society. Many feared the loss of their identity, and in response, a group arose that was fiercely devoted to preserving the law at all costs. From this movement emerged what would later be known as the Pharisees, whose name comes from a Hebrew word meaning separated, not physically, but through conduct, purity, and lifestyle. As the years passed, the Pharisees became the recognized interpreters of the law. They were not temple priests, yet their authority did not come from sacrifices or lineage, but from discipline, study, and strict obedience. They taught in synagogues, guided moral behavior, and instructed people on how to live faithfully in everyday life. Alongside the written law, they developed an extensive oral tradition meant to explain how each commandment should be applied in real situations. Over time, these traditions became so important that they often carried the same weight as Scripture itself. From childhood, boys were trained to memorize the law through constant repetition. Faith was first written into the mind and later enforced through behavior. As they grew older, the expectations intensified. They were taught not only to avoid sin, but to avoid anything that might lead to sin, building protective rules around God's commandments. Obedience was not emotional or spontaneous. It was structured, disciplined, and constant. Those who excelled in this system gained respect and influence within the community. A typical day for a Pharisee began with prayer. These prayers followed fixed times and prescribed words learned from childhood. Life did not shape prayer. Prayer shaped life. public prayer became a visible marker of righteousness, and those who followed the rules were seen as faithful, while others were quietly judged. Ritual hand-washing followed strict procedures, not for hygiene, but for spiritual purity, with detailed rules about how and when the washing should be done. Even the dinner table carried spiritual meaning. Eating was considered an act of fellowship, which is why Pharisees carefully controlled what they ate and with whom they ate. They avoided tax collectors, sinners, and Gentiles, believing that sharing a meal meant sharing spiritual status. This explains why Jesus caused such outrage when he ate with sinners. Because from the Pharisaic perspective, this was not compassion, but spiritual compromise. Work life was also regulated by religious standards. Many Pharisees were merchants, craftsmen, or farmers, and they closely monitored honesty in business, weights, measurements, and financial dealings. Faith was not something to be felt, it was something to be managed. The home became an extension of religious duty, where fathers taught the law continually. Discipline was seen as spiritual protection, and even marital life was governed by purity rules. The Sabbath held a central place in their lives. It was carefully prepared for and regulated by detailed interpretations, defining what counted as work and what did not. Over time, the Sabbath became less about rest and more about spiritual measurement. Fasting and tithing served similar roles. Fasting was meant to be visible, and tithing extended even to the smallest herbs. Obedience became measurable, comparable, and public. Eventually, this strict lifestyle produced a dangerous outcome: spiritual pride. Righteousness was no longer viewed as a gift from God, but as a personal achievement. Some Pharisees exploited others under the appearance of holiness, even taking advantage of widows while using religious language to justify their actions. Jesus directly condemned this behavior, accusing them of devouring widows' houses while pretending to be righteous. This is why Jesus confronted the Pharisees so harshly. He did not accuse them of lacking religion, but of replacing God with religion. He called them blind guides, hypocrites, and whitewashed tombs. Not because they disobeyed the law, but because they obeyed it without love. They perfected the outward details while neglecting what mattered most: justice, mercy, and faithfulness. In the end, the Pharisee appears as a disciplined, serious man of faith who slowly became convinced of his own righteousness. Thank you sincerely for staying until the end of this video. If this message helped you understand the Bible more deeply, please like this video, follow the page, and share it so others can discover these truths as well. May God bless your life, and I will see you in the next video.